What do you get when you cross a know-it-all newspaper columnist with an awkward, unsophisticated everyman?
Yeah. Well, I'm just not sure about that right now.
Welcome to Couch and the Roo.
Welcome to Couch in the Roo, presented by Skyman Premium Cannabis, inspiring people to do better, look better, love better, smell better, just feel better every damn day of their lives. And our Wednesday night show, brought to you by our friends at Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar and Front 43 Neighborhood Pub, now with some really cool new menu items, including short rib sandwich, ginger barbecue yardbird, sushi bowls, all sorts of cool new stuff. And, of course, their regular favorites. Outstanding menu, Cask & Company and Front 43. That's just north of Frandor on East Saginaw and Lansing, near the Lansing and East Saginaw border. Jason, how you doing, man?
Not good.
I'm never going to financially recover from this.
I mean, the Padres are killing me with this Tigers shit. I mean, like, can they win a game against the Tigers? Walk off today, the bottom of the ninth inning? Victor Reyes? What the fuck is going on here? Are we gambling on the Tigers anymore?
Yes. This weekend is going to be paradise.
Buenos tardes. It is time for the Detroit Tigers Gambling Update with Gramanito Couch and Jason Need.
At Toronto, correct?
4-game series. Again, with
Is there anyone not going because of the
it's not even about
booster
that.
shot or COVID or whatever?
Yeah, but it's people not going because they're injured. Like their pitching staff, Skubal pitches today.
He did, yeah.
And then it's like Garrett Hill, to be named from Toledo on Friday, and then Jackass 1 and Jackass 2 on the weekend on the road against the hot hitting. I mean, it's perfect. This was not great. The Padres have some issues in their bullpen. This was not great, I admit.
I mean, Darvish pitched
but you
really
also
well. But
you also I thought the rule was you didn't take the other team when Skubal was pitching. That was clear. That if you picked the Padres today, you went against the rule.
Yeah, but I wasn't worried about Skubal as much. I mean, the bullpen, I was figuring they would get to the 7th, 8th, 9th inning and blow it in that fashion. That's why I took Padres money line today in a couple parlays, but whatever. And secondly, so Big Ten Media Days, Graham, you don't go, but you're live tweeting all day about Big Ten Media Days.
It's the best way to do it.
So you were interested, or LSJ, the LSJ made you
no
live tweet.
It's my job, and I don't.
You didn't want to be there with like the beautiful people.
It was
Evelyn Crawford, all those guys.
Here's what I had to do with this year, and usually I don't want to be there, but this year I thought there were compelling storylines. I actually found it quite interesting. Wish I could have gone. We decided to send Ryan, and we did so in part because, number one, Ryan enjoys this sort of stuff. He hasn't gotten to do a lot of the travel for us and other things, and we're going to have Ryan on with us shortly here. He also was in Milwaukee in that area to watch Xavier Booker over the weekend, so we're going to talk to him about what he saw there and what he sort of learned in his conversations with Booker. But I'm going on this trip to London, to England, and my dad's hometown.
That's right, yeah.
And I cannot.
Is that next week?
It's middle of next week. So
okay.
It's too late to catch COVID.
True.
And I'm not going to be around a pack of mouth-breathing reporters in Indiana and catch COVID because I would resent them forever. I would not be able to do this job if some knuckle-dragging moron in Indiana gave me COVID.
But wouldn't you wear a mask then? I mean, if you're you're boosted.
I would.
You had 2 boosters in each arm.
If this was a game, I would be there. It's media day for most fans.
So you'd be, if there were a game, you would still, even if the England trip was still next week.
Correct.
You would still
that's
go.
the job. This is July. This is still my time.
Okay.
That's the way I view the job.
So you're just live tweeting all day long.
Well, no, I still think
watching
it's important. I was
soccer.
watching. Yeah, no. Well, I was doing that too. But I was, and I was following along. Like I'm writing a column that'll go up tonight on some of the stuff we're going to talk about here. Which, like, I thought there were a few interesting things that came out of this. One, the discussion that we had with the Twitter questions on Saturday, or whenever we last did our Twitter questions. What day is it now?
Today is Wednesday.
It was the Hot Take Sunday that a lot of this came up. It was people concerned about NIL and the recruiting space limiting what MSU can become under Mel Tucker. That was a very common theme, right? And so I wanted I was hoping Tucker would be asked about this, and he was to some degree, not as much as I would have. And I'll talk to him about it more later, but enough for me to write on it later on this evening. And one of the things you start to realize is you got to kind of trust the guy right now, right? Because in terms of recruiting, culture building, in terms of understanding the resources required to elevate MSU's program, that there's no evidence to the contrary right now that he doesn't know what he's doing. It's been a lot of competence in that sense, right? And one of the things he brought up was he doesn't know what it's going to take to win, what it's going to take to keep a recruit, what it's going to take to keep kids on campus, how much money it'll take in NIL. But he said one thing, and he repeated it twice. He said, ask me in 6 months. I think it's going to be revealing at that point. And all you have to do is the math on 6 months. That puts you like smack dab in the middle of the 2 recruiting signing days, end of December, beginning of February. In other words, if this is actually going to be a problem, he'll know it in 6 months. Right now, they've got 9 4-star kids. Yeah, they missed out on some 5-stars, and there's no doubt that, NIL is well, we don't know to what degree NIL has played a role in them actually missing out on particular kids. It looks like it's played a role on where certain kids have gone. But I don't think you can panic yet, because I don't think you know where it's going. I don't think he knows where it's going. But I do think you can sort of take some level of comfort in who will be ultimately adjusting at MSU if there's a need to adjust. Like, MSU is not going to pay people. Understand that. Like, they're not going to pay recruits. Not unless
Why not?
Not unless the
you want to win a national championship?
The compliance people, the administrators, and the ethics all change.
Then why pay Mel Tucker $95 million if you're not going to pay guys? What's the point of it?
Well, because you have to get creative.
Don't pay a coach then.
Hold on. Well, but you still got to get a coach who's good enough to get people in the door. It's a multi-layered process. It goes back to what Mark D'Antonio said years ago to me about this. He said, it's apples to apples, and then it's about people, right? You have to be close enough in resources to make it about people. It's still about people. Ultimately, Mel Tucker is still who you want recruiting for you. There's still, I think, a lot in the swag and whatever he brings and what that staff, the hunger they have and the different components they have. That stuff all still matters. The question is, how much does NIL in the recruiting space matter? And how much, one of the things that'll get interesting is if MSU has a lot of really good stuff going for its players once they get on campus, if they're able to recruit to that, then it doesn't, it's like, we can't just pay you specifically, but once you sign, this is what other kids are getting right away. They're doing this. They're part of this. They signed up for this. They're collectively part of the East Lansing NIL. They're collectively getting what Ishbia does. They've got this SD4L stuff that, is the clothing line thing. And that's just one component of creativity in figuring out how this NIL stuff's going to work and what's the best way to give your program and your players the most you can. And that's what they're trying to figure out. I'm just saying, I think MSU has good people to try to figure that out. You're right, though. They're not going to – I don't think they're going to pay – they're not just going to pay recruits.
I'm just seeing some of these coaches, though, that are at the Big Ten Media Days, like Kirk Ferentz and Pat Fitzgerald. They're like, it's chaotic. We need someone to step in. There needs to be some sort of rules, right? Now, is it because they're not going to get those guys? They're not going to pay players. They're kind of jealous of the other teams, or they're really concerned. It's concerning to me that these guys are coming out and going, yeah, this is chaotic.
Well, yeah, it is chaotic. And I think if you have ethics, it's chaotic.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem. And you can't just, shed your ethics or shed what you think is right or shed what your compliance department thinks is right to go do something else. And ultimately in the SEC, I think there are different priorities. Look, in the SEC, football coaches who aren't teachers make like $200,000 a year around there. You know what I mean? Or in Texas or what? I'm not talking about. Sorry, I should rephrase that. Fix this in post. High school football coaches who aren't teachers in like Texas and places in certain areas of the South make big money without doing a whole lot right? But because it's important to that community.
It's a lot of pressure. You have to win. It's not like you can lose 4 games a season. I mean, it comes with a lot of pressure, right?
It's a good job, though.
But it's high pressure job. I mean, if you're going to make some 6-figure kind of money, I would rather not have that kind of pressure. But yeah,
either way, in certain areas of the country, there's a level of importance. In Ohio, you can argue there's some of that too with football, and we'll see what Ohio State does with all of this. And then Michigan has made it clear this is not a direction they're going in. In other words, let's see where they are this signing period. Let's see what happens this signing period. The other component of this that I thought was interesting at signing day, that plays into this, beyond the expansion talk, was coaches were asked, and also Kevin Warren, the commissioner, asked about the notion of players getting a share of the revenue and players wanting that. And there's going to be a player advocacy group within the Big Ten, and he sounds like he's willing to be very aggressive on certain fronts. The question will become, and he even said, what does that look like? What does it look like for players to get a piece of the pie? And I think that's a great question, and I think that's where it's going to take some creativity again, but I think it can be there. And if there is a more formal compensation model that the Big Ten has that other areas then have to play catch-up in, does that give Big Ten schools an edge that other places don't have? Or if that's something, does that take some of the pressure on NIL out of the recruiting space? You know what I mean? Like we'll see. I think all of this is unfolding. I feel bad for Jerry DiNardo. Watching the Big Ten Network, he kept saying, like, NIL is done, the transfer portal's done, they've all adjusted already. No, nobody's adjusted. Like, some are doing okay with it, but NIL, they're still figuring out, and it absolutely could be a problem. But I also think if you're a little concerned about it, if you're Michigan State and you've got 9 4-stars tentatively in the fold, and you've got a coach you think is equipped to handle this situation, and an administration that seems to be in lockstep, and donors who seem to be willing parties, like, let them figure it out. Don't worry yet. And if there's a time to panic, if 5 of those kids leave on signing day and you're left with a class of 4 or 5 4-stars, then panic. or you got to figure something else out, and you got to, and those conversations will happen. But we're not there yet. And so that something that came to mind watching everything that was said and listening that was said to things that were said both up on the podium on BTN and were relayed to me through other people. And
so you watched the whole coverage?
I watched a lot.
Wall
I paid
to
attention
wall.
a lot. Look, it's the job. I don't really love it. Like I always say, like, my big thing with this job is 8 months out of the year, I'll give you every Saturday and Sunday, whatever it is. The jobs. I love the job. It's an unbelievable job to have this sort of platform, to have the listeners we do and readers that I'm able to have, and people actually, read what you write and listen to what you think, as asinine as it is. I mean, that's one of the reasons I enjoy the platform of giving other people their hot takes and Twitter questions to get a sense of things. But that's an incredible privilege. But in the summer, I value my time more than the job, without question.
Do fellow media members, though, like, see you in person and, like, hate you, though, because you're just, like, critiquing all of their terrible questions? Like, I don't know how many names you dropped, but it was pretty funny. It's like,
a few may want to punch me in the face. No, I'm kidding. There are certain things that are, you watch these things,
stupid looking face,
and you go, what are they doing? This is why people get laid off in the media. You've got one question you're going to ask in front of everybody at this, in these press conferences that are televised. You've been thinking about it, and you ask about leadership. Fucking leadership.
Yeah. Who's going to be the leader of your team?
You know what nobody reads? A story about leadership. You put leadership in a headline, nobody's going to read it. It's like a Travis Trice ankle sprain.
Paragraphs.
Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And I'm just and you're going to ask. I mean, first of all, and if you have a good question, why are you asking it there anyway? Ask it when it's a lesser crowd, so not everybody gets what you're at. Shares in the information.
They should let you go ahead of Kevin Warren and explain to everyone what you should be doing. Here's Graham Couch to alert the media of what you're doing wrong. Do not write any articles about leadership.
Or improves. Nobody ever improves. Don't ever put improves in a headline. Looks to improve, because nobody who's listening would ever read that article without question. The Big Ten expansion stuff was kind of interesting, too, I thought.
No mention of Notre Dame. I just see UCLA and Oregon, right? Or who are we talking about adding? USC,
Yeah,
UCLA,
no, there's
excuse me.
There are reports of Cal being in there,
Cal,
which isn't happening, by the way. It's just not. And Stanford and a number of schools they're interested in. There was reports of Miami, was it Florida State and Miami, I think. And again, the ACC schools are in that grant of rights deal.
That would be weird.
You're hearing a lot of different things. The thing that I keep going back to, and I thought Kevin Warren is pretty clear on this, that they're going to be aggressive, but they're going to do it when it makes sense to them, when it's right for them, and it's, most of these things don't add value in terms of the finances to the Big Ten. To me, Stanford is a brand, adds value. You bring Stanford and Notre Dame, there's value. But even Oregon and Washington, what do you want to be? Like, what does that really, really add? Oregon football has some oomph to it. Both those are good schools. Washington's a great school. It's in the Seattle market. If you want to be more out west, it's not a bad play.
And do these schools care about what they want to be, or are they just taking the money, right? Like, do they care about their football program, or do they want to join because it means more money to them?
Well, those schools do care about their football program, absolutely, because the football drives athletics. But what's very clear, though, is, Kevin Warren and the Big Ten are going to be incredibly they do not want to have to react to other people expanding, to things happening around them. They want to be the ones creating whatever's happening. And I just think there's not a whole lot more creating that needs to happen. Other than adding Notre Dame, you're telling me the 14 you have right now, and the two more coming, the 16. How much money do you need?
A lot.
And if you do, you better be prepared to share it with the players and really elevate your non-revs and do some really cool things financially. But the other thing is, who else really brings in cash? And there's some interesting studies going on this. We'll get into this later. I'm very hesitant on some of the reports out there about just how aggressive and how I do think there will be additions to the Big Ten within a year's time. I'm just a little hesitant that it's going to be like 4 or 6 more schools, whatever. They're going to get to 20 that quick. If you see Cal in there, I made a bet today with one of our listeners, Upper Deck, or not Upper Deck Jerk guy, this softball dad, and I gave him 50-1 odds. He's going to send me $10, and if Cal ever joins the Big Ten, I owe him $500. And I think those are great odds for me.
Or he owes you 10. That's a long way to go for $10.
Yeah,
I mean, you should have just thrown like a thong bet on there or something.
It's who's not going to join the Big Ten? Cal.
Yeah.
So I'm just not.
Enjoy your $10.
I'm just not worried about it. All right, let's get Ryan Black from the LSJ in here. We've never had him on before, and he's a recent hire, been fantastic for us, and was in Milwaukee talking to Xavier Booker, and then was also in Indianapolis today at Big Ten Media Day. And before we have him on, a reminder, Skymint, if you're having trouble getting through this show or any Tigers game or Tigers bet or anything, Skymint can help you do that. Go to skymint.com for location information, 3 in the Lansing area, many more throughout Michigan. You can sign up there, get points, register a friend. You can get a $25 referral credit. The best deals at skymint.com and location information. All right, we have Ryan with us. Very happy now to have Ryan Black from the Lansing State Journal making his debut on Couch in the Reuben. I'm sorry it took this long. Ryan, how you doing, man?
I'm doing okay, Graham. Like I said, it's only been here 6 months, so I guess better late than never.
Yeah, it's kind of actually offensive. I apologize. We should have done this.
I've been telling Graham to get you on the show, Ryan, but he doesn't want to listen to me, so apologies.
No problem.
And if people don't know, you're from Georgia. The accent gives it away.
Yeah, no, that is correct.
And the first time you asked Tom Izzo a question, I believe his response was something like, "Whoa, that's a hell of a UP accent," or something like that.
I think it was. We've really got to work on your UP accent.
That's what it was.
Right.
Yeah. It stands out. It's good though. It's so all right. I want to get your takeaways on a number of things before we get into Booker a little bit. The things you heard down in Indianapolis from Michigan State players and Mel Tucker today that stood out, that you're sort of taking away from that.
I have to say, I really liked everything I heard from all three of the players, Peyton Thorne, Jaden Reed, Xavier Henderson, because you could tell, like, they took a lot of positives out of last season, as you would expect. Like, they're quietly confident. I'll admit, Jaden Reed talking about how, the secondary is going to be one of the best in the Big Ten after last season. I feel like that's him hyping up his teammates, as he should. I mean, as Mel Tucker kind of joked about was that, they can't really get any worse than last season, right, when they were dead last in the nation in terms of passing yards per game. But I think you can just tell that they don't really feel a need to, like, beat their chest about things, because I think they showed what they could do last season, and I think now they're really out to prove that they can be, even better this fall. And so I really liked everything I heard from their team today. Other than I wish, that maybe Mel Tucker would have responded more to Pat Narduzzi's comments, but he kind of took the high road.
That was Alex Hickey who asked that question, by the way. Alex looking to stir up trouble. My former friend friend and former colleague from the Freeport Journal-Standard, trying to stir shit up, which is not unlike Alex. But yeah, he didn't. I mean, he didn't take the bait on Narduzzi. It would have been outstanding if he would have. I think it was the wrong setting, and this is one of those things. Jason was giving me shit for saying things like, you're always chastising reporters about how they should do their job on Twitter. But like, if Alex had asked that question in a smaller setting in the individual podiums instead of on television, maybe he gets a different question, a different answer from Tucker. You think so or no?
Well, I think you're always more likely to get maybe something better in a smaller setting. I mean, you do occasionally have coaches who they want to say something bigger during the big press conference. Today he didn't do it, but I remember back when I used to cover SEC stuff, Brett Bielema, he always seemed to make a big deal at Arkansas about saying something that he knew was going to rile up a certain fan base or another. But I also think that you're right, Graham. I think if Alex or any reporter had asked that and they'd been someone who had more of a relationship with Tucker, because I'm assuming that Alex has never talked to Mel before. I'm sure that probably didn't help. But I think you're right that you definitely would have gotten somewhat of a different answer if it had been something like what you got to do with Tucker. What was it, at the end of the spring, where you got to kind of do a one-on-one with him? I mean, I think that you would have probably got a little bit better answer there in a more like an intimate setting. So,
obviously, for Michigan State to fulfill its dreams, right? They're going to have to get past an Ohio State team that returns like 75% of its roster and has the first-round pick at quarterback and receiver, and what's supposed to be an improved defense. I mean, it could be a brutal year for everybody else in the Big Ten. I'm wondering, were any of the Michigan State guys asked about that game or facing that team that you heard?
Well, I was not over there when any of the players were specifically asked about that, but Mel Tucker basically said that, when I got here to Michigan State, that's the program where I pretty much knew when I looked at our roster top to bottom, that's who we were furthest behind in the league. And he was asked, well, do you feel like you've gotten any closer to them? And he's like, well, I guess we'll see when we play them this year. He's like, he just didn't feel like he could really give a fair answer to that until they actually match up again.
I mean, look, what else are you going to say? You lost like 47-0, 57-0, 67. I don't remember what the score was. It was a lot to a nothing, and you knew it in the were the players asked anything like, do you get a sense that there's there has to be some level of quiet confidence right now after last year. Do you get a sense that I've seen this go two ways, where teams are a little too full of themselves? What's the tone on like who they think they are and sort of the humility that you sense?
Well, I mean, I definitely sensed it, because I especially was more over by Reed and Henderson. Thorne had a pretty decent amount of people around him for most of the time, so I only got over to him at the very end. But, talking to both of those guys about like how, the feedback they got from the NFL was humbling and it was motivating. And especially Henderson, I think he already kind of felt like, that he was already someone who took criticism pretty well. But I think when you hear from the top level, the places you want to get to, the place you've maybe been dreaming of playing your whole life, when they say here's X, Y, and Z, and also that like the best grade they gave him was like a 6th round pick. He said, they even floated the option he could be like an undrafted free agent. And he's like, man, when you have someone telling you that, he thought that really smacks you in the face about how, you really need to humble yourself. And so, and Reed was kind of the same way. The only thing he got a little bit chesty about, I feel like, was that he got some feedback that they questioned like his strength, and he's like, well, I know that I can do 17 reps, 225 pounds, so he's like, I think I'm plenty strong enough. But he's like, they'll see one day. So I didn't feel like that was overly cocky, but I definitely feel like both of them know what they're good at, and then also what they need to do to get better, not just this season, but for what they hope for pro careers in the future.
And I know that's a piece you're writing for tomorrow at the LSJ on sort of the humbling criticism critique that Xavier Henderson and Jaden Reed got from the NFL and what that did for them. All right, I want to talk a little bit about Xavier Booker. You were in the greater Milwaukee area to see him play this last weekend and chat with him for a little while. And it was, he was very complimentary in your stories, which, by the way, you can find at lsj.com, about Michigan State, and talked about them being there when nobody else really was. What was your sense about him?
Well, the first thing, this is the first time I'd ever talked to him, was he's like a very, very quiet, unassuming kid. I think other than the fact, of course, he's nearly 7 feet tall, I think if he was a shorter person, you wouldn't know that this guy was one of the, 2 to 3 to 4 or 5 most wanted players in the country in his recruiting class, because he's just very soft-spoken. He's a guy who I think he knows that he's still really far away from what he potentially can be. And specifically on the Michigan State part, I think when you look at his background, with his father having been in the Marines for 27 years, both of his older brothers having also been in the armed forces, his family really, really, really values loyalty. And I think given that, as you noted, Graham, he said that, Michigan State was basically recruiting me when none of these other schools had even come out to watch me play. And so I think that when it comes to his final decision, that'll go a very long way. I'm not going to put in some crystal ball or anything like that right now, but I think that Michigan State really fancies their chances of landing him in the future, just based off how long their relationship dates back with him.
And you said Izzo was there, flew down to South Carolina, and was back, right? It was in a 2-day span while you were there, right?
He has some areas that he can clean up like any kid who's still in high school, but it's just so easy to see how much potential this kid has. And when I asked him, is there anybody you try to model your game after, he's like, well, certainly I look up to KD, but I think I try to be my own player. But he's just given his skill set and his body type, correct. Kevin Durant, someone a lot of people would compare him to. Now, of course, Graham, in that sense, I don't want people to think that I'm saying he's the next Kevin Durant. I'm just saying that he has a similar skill set and body type. I think it's really unfair to any kid when you say, well, he's the next, Tom Brady or Pat Mahomes or anything. You got to be at least realistic. I'm just more giving people a sense of, if Kevin Durant was lefty and what he looked like coming out of high school was probably very similar to what Xavier Booker is right now.
Although Kevin Durant weighed about 12 pounds coming out of high school, and so and I know Booker's is a string bean to some degree, but he's 215 pounds. But when you say that, he's viewed as a big man to some degree, and Kevin Garnett is a guard, and he's viewed as a power forward. Is he playing? What is he playing at the next level?
Oh, well, he's really a guy that can guard multiple positions. Because he moves his feet really, really, really well for his size. I think obviously, at Michigan State or wherever, I'm sure he would be slotted in at the 4 or the 5. But if they wanted to go with a big lineup, he could play the 3 as well. And that's one thing. Graham, there were countless times in these games I watched with him over the weekend where he's a guy that can grab the ball, on a defensive rebound, take it all the way coast to coast. He can really, really, really dribble the ball. So that's not a hindrance to him at all. I mean, he does have some. He obviously mainly plays down low in the way this team uses him, but I mean, he's a fantastic shooter for his size, and so I think just the fact he's got such an inside-out game already, puts him ahead of a lot of kids at his age.
Well, I know, look, MSU fans, he's the prize at this point. And there are a couple other kids they're in after, and they already have, obviously, Jeremy Fears Jr. in that 2023 class. But this would, all the consternation about Izzo and all this stuff, this would quell a lot of that if he then lands Xavier Booker. Ryan, appreciate it, man. Sorry it took so long to have you on. I don't know what, it's quite, as Jason said, it's quite offensive, and my apologies.
Yeah, no, it's fine, and hopefully it was worth the wait for you guys.
Absolutely, my man. I'll talk to you soon. Thanks a lot.
All right, yeah, take care.
That is Ryan Black, the sports storyteller at the Lansing State Journal. A really good hire. You know what I love about Ryan is, like, Ryan, in this day and age, you get some writers who are concerned about metrics and how things, page views and all that stuff.
Yeah, well, I care about that.
You have to some degree, but what I mean is he is also interested in the story. Like, if it's a non-revenue sport and it's an interesting story, he's more than happy to tell it. And a lot of those do really well. He doesn't get frozen by the metrics, which some writers do in our business, and so I always appreciate that about Ryan.
Are you going to tell him that we had Nate Atkins on, like, his first day?
Did we really?
Yeah. It was like his first or second day you had him in studio.
No.
Yeah. I mean, believe me, there's people with better memories that listen to the show. Maybe they know, but I guarantee you, it was really, like, early on.
So
I remember meeting him.
I don't even remember when Nate started. It started in the fall. And were we doing 5 days a week? Were we desperate back then?
Remember.
I don't know.
Everything's a blur.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I wanted him to have something to say, We only do one interview a week, and, like, I didn't want it to be like, just coming on to introduce somebody. Right now, he's our guy in Indy. He's just seen Xavier Booker. There's a lot of good intel, so
sure,
it seemed worth.
Does that make you feel better?
I hadn't realized that we hadn't had him on until recently. I'll be honest. I probably would have done it earlier because I like Ryan a ton.
He's probably like, wait a minute, I've been here 6 months. Graham has a podcast. He hasn't asked me to come. It's a sports podcast, right? Yeah, he talks Michigan State. Oh,
interesting.
Thanks, Graham.
Yeah, kind of a little bit douchey thing. Anyway,
right.
The Xavier Booker stuff's interesting. I mean, he talked to Booker, and look,
it's only interesting if he comes to Michigan State.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of people are getting that sense, and there's I think this one, if he doesn't come to Michigan State, will be heartbreaking for MSU and heartbreaking for MSU fans because it does feel like they've been on him forever. It feels like they put in the work, and it feels like he has said a lot of nice things and been leaning toward him and feels like a kid who's not, I don't want to say easily swayed by, shenanigans, but because I don't actually know the kid, but he seems like he comes from
We're always swayed. All of us are swayed by shenanigans.
Yeah, that's true. We're easily swayed.
You going to throw a percentage on Xavier Booker coming to Michigan State that you think yes?
I don't know the kid
50-50
at all.
Graham Stout it?
I would put it at better than 50-50 at this point. That's just from everything I read.
55-45?
And even from people in other give me 55-45, which is pretty good considering there are a lot of other schools in play. Yeah. He just named 10. So I think Michigan.
Is there a sneaky school that's going to jump up out of nowhere? That's not a.
Put it this way: if you said Michigan State or the field to me, and you could have either bet, this is like Tiger Woods in his prime. I would take Michigan State.
Wow.
And
that's better than 55-45.
That might be the most ignorant thing I've ever said, and it might not be. To Graham Stout that a little bit. All right, let's take a really quick break. When we come back, we'll have Harry Gagnon on Couch in the Rue, presented by Skyman Premium Cannabis and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar and Front 43 Neighborhood Pub.
Firekeepers Online Casino and Sportsbook is the site to play. Get your Vegas on right now from your phone, tablet, or laptop. All the hottest slots and tables, plus sports betting featuring in-game wagering. Download the app at firekeeperscasino.com. Go with the name you know. Firekeepers. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 or older and located in Michigan. Gambling problem? Call the Michigan Problem Gambling Helpline at 1-800-270-7117. Where else can you cheer on your team? Enjoy a mouth-watering burger or savory sushi. Sip on handcrafted cocktails or one of 46 beers on tap. Take your game day or date night to Cask & Company Kitchen Bar or Front 43 Neighborhood Pub near Frandor. Two amazing places with one awesome blended modern American Asian menu. Catch the game on one of 30 60-inch TVs or stop in for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet. Enjoy happy hour or elevate your night out at Cask & Company or Front 43 on East Saginaw in Lansing. Wherever you are on your cannabis journey, let Sky Mint Premium Cannabis be your guide, your friend, and your place. Whether you're curious about cannabis or a seasoned connoisseur, Sky Mint's knowledgeable staff will help you with a vast selection of products to choose from to fit your needs. Sky Mint believes access to the best cannabis helps people do good and feel good, so they grow it right here in Michigan, giving you high-quality, locally grown cannabis at highly accessible prices. Visit skymint.com for special offers and location information throughout Michigan, and use the promo code CouchAndRube20 for 20% off your first visit. Sky Mint Cannabis. You'll love this place.
Find Couch and the Rube podcasts on Spreaker, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, Google Podcasts, CastBox, and the Rube's favorite, Podcast Addict.
Couch and the Rube, presented by Skymint Premium Cannabis and Front 43 Neighborhood Pub and Cask & Company Kitchen and Bar. It is now time to have Harry Gagnon on as we pick the games, brought to you by our friends at Firekeepers Casino and the iCasino and Sportsbook. Harry Gagnon, of course, with ExtraPoints.com, BestBetCorner.com, and the Against All Odds podcast with Cousin Sal. Harry, are you okay, man? I'm hearing weird noise. Are you in the bathroom, or what's happening?
No, hey guys, what's up? I'm in Huntington Beach. My buddy, his wife's sister is playing in a 16 to 18-year-old softball tournament. Round teams from across the country. She's going to be a freshman at Rutgers in the fall, playing on the softball team. So we're here chilling, watching a little softball.
Nice.
That's most important question: are you putting any money on it?
You know what? I'm taking a break. I don't want to, but I can't find any. I can't find a book here. Well, I'm in California. No books. They need to have, no need to. We all know that we need books in California, so we're trying.
You could create the book tonight. I guarantee some people around there would take some action if you could just get it going.
Really could. I mean, that's not. You know what? I might be here tomorrow. That's a great idea, guys.
Yeah. No, it's. Well, Harry, I was with you on the Tigers both days, and obviously, yesterday more so than today, and it worked out in extra innings. I do think this weekend, 4 games with shitty pitchers for the Tigers in Toronto, this could be a great opportunity to go with the Blue Jays and make some cash.
Especially we saw what the Blue Jays have been doing lately. But you got to give it up to the Tigers a little bit. Listen, they put up 12 in the first game against the Padres, and nice come from behind win today, and tied it up with 2 outs in the 9th yesterday. I mean, if you had the Padres like I did yesterday at minus the 1.5, got really fortunate. 3 runs in the 10th on just 1 hit. So very lucky there. But Detroit outplayed San Diego. That's pretty good for the Tigers.
Yeah, no, it was disappointing at this point. Yeah, at this point we're about winning bets,
Lost so much goddamn money on this stupid team. So sick of them.
Yeah, no, it's
just win already. Come on.
No, it's
brutal.
It's great.
Yeah. All right, so you guys, you and Sal had brought this up on Against All Odds. The better appearance at training camp: Aaron Rodgers casting for Con Air 2, or Russell Wilson showing up in a Dodge truck wearing his Broncos jersey because he wanted to, not because he was told to. Who does
that?
You know what? I actually think Russell Wilson. I mean, if I'm a Broncos fan, I'm pumped up. That pumped me up because that means he's just one of the guys, and he's wearing his jersey. He's pumped and ready to play, ready to do whatever it takes to win like he always has. And meanwhile, Aaron Rodgers, I don't know. I just think Rodgers is a joke. You know what? Every year it's something with Rodgers in the offseason. Last year it was the contract. If he's going to get it from Green Bay, is he going to stay? Is he going to go? Is he not going to play? This year, whatever that was the other day coming in. You know what? Enough of Aaron Rodgers. Let me see you do it now with Devontae Adams gone. Let me see you be MVP caliber again. And you know what? More than anything, Aaron Rodgers, make another Super Bowl. You've been there once. That's it. All this stuff, last year, couldn't do anything against San Francisco at home in the playoffs. I know it was cold, but so what? You still got to get it done at home. Year before against Tampa Bay, couldn't do it either. Get to another Super Bowl, Aaron Rodgers. Enough of all this baloney.
I don't know though. If you're going to show respect to Nick Cage, What is that movie that he was in?
Con Air.
Con Air. If you're going to show respect to Con Air, I mean, come on. Wearing your own jersey, I got to say, I don't think I've ever seen that before for Russell Wilson. I don't know if you're a Broncos fan that pumps you up. I'm just kind of like, all right, I guess.
Well, it's funny. I was driving from Palm Springs to Huntington Beach today, listening to the Pat McAfee show, and he was talking about it too. And he's like, I've never seen that. I've never heard of that. Unless if you're doing a charity event, of course you're going to wear it. But doing it because you want to, he's like, I've never seen them NFL player do that ever.
Might as well just come out of the car with your all of your
gear. Then you don't even have to change. You go right to the field. Save some time. All right, so one of the things I wanted to, and we'll get into NFL over-unders and college football over-unders again as we get closer, but I wanted at least to sort of scratch the surface on some over-unders as people, because what happens to me this time of year, you get a day where there's nothing I really like. Like today I was losing money on the live line on the Germany-France women's European soccer game semifinal. And so and I'll do some like obscure Champions League early round games.
What did you have in that, by the way? What did you have? What did you do?
I totally screwed it up. So the game. I mean, I hedged hard, but at the first 10 minutes of the game, France looks like I don't want to say the better team, but the more dangerous side. They look like the team that was going to create more chances, and they were like plus 230 or something like that. And so I tweeted out like there was a real live line opportunity, and then it became clear that Germany's defense is really good, and Germany was like shortly after that, Germany scores. And then as soon as I'm like, shit, and I start hedging, France scores the other way. But it gave me an opportunity. I still felt good about Germany, which won 2-1, so it gave me the opportunity to hedge. And if you have Paramount Plus, there are lots of Champions League early round games and great, weird things happening in Uzbekistan and Turkey and places that you can lots of good matchups to bet on and watch.
This guy's hedging women's soccer on a Wednesday.
I love it.
So, but what I was saying is when you're somebody like me, when there's not a lot on, you start just perusing the season wins over-unders, even if you've looked at them before, and sometimes you make an early bet just because you're bored. And so I want to get on this early for people a little bit and see, some of the different ones that we like. One of the ones you like is the Chargers over 10.5, right? And I'm wondering what you like about that.
Well, I like over 10.5, and I also like them to win the division, and I also think it's worth a shot to take Herbert for MVP. I think this Charger team, they grabbed Khalil Mack, they got J.C. Jackson from New England. Jackson, 17 picks the last 2 years. He's got combined last 2 years, 17 picks. They needed some help in the secondary. I'm not sold on the Chiefs in the division either because of now Hill going to Miami. I don't know if they're going to get the help that they need wide receiver wise overall, and still they were a little shoddy on defense at times. So I like the Chargers here. I think, you look at Herbert, the guy 2 years in the NFL, 70 touchdowns, guys. 70 touchdowns the first 2 years. I think their offense is going to be spectacular. And I like over 10.5. I think they get to 11, maybe even 12. And like I said, I even like them for the division because the Raiders have issues in the secondary. Only, like I said, Jackson, 17 interceptions the last 2 years. The Raiders secondary combined, the whole team.
A while back at with heavy juice like minus 145. A lot of places you're seeing even money at over 9.5 now, so you're getting better juice, but it's a bigger win total. I still don't, with even money, I still don't hate over 9.5. I think they're going to be much improved. I think that at worst they're the second best team in that division. You remember people play 17 games now, so I still like it. But you also like the Vikings over.
I do. I just, you know what? It's more than. I'm kind of like a closet Vikings fan for some reason, and I've been doing it. This is a couple years in a row I've been on them. Maybe it's just because I don't like the Packers. I don't love Aaron Rodgers. Again, I want to see Aaron Rodgers do it without Adams here. Let's see how great the Packers are. I think this, maybe Jefferson can be maybe even better than Adams now. Maybe he has the most touchdowns this year. Maybe he has the most yards. He's an electric player. I love this offense with Cook there too. And I know Zimmer and maybe the quarterback, I'm drawing a blank now. Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins didn't get along that great overall. A lot of questions going on between him. New head coach there, new regime in Minnesota, and Cousins is still there. He still can put up the numbers. I'm banking on the defense being better, and the offense is going to be one of the best offenses in the NFL. I'm going to go with the Vikings over.
Were you surprised I remembered the name Kirk Cousins since I don't remember any names, Jason?
Yeah, I was hoping that you both were just going to have you couldn't remember off.
Yeah,
and I would just sit here and laugh.
That's what usually happens here. So one of the things is you are rooting for the Packers under. Does that mean is this just your spite, or is this the way you feel? Because you say rooting, and it's, by the way, it's over under is 11.5. The juice is is heavy on the under. So a lot of people, that's a big number, 11.5. I would be inclined to take the under too.
It is a big number, and I know Adams is huge in this situation. I mean, I don't, and then Valdes-Scantling bolted as well in free agency. I don't love their wide receiver core right now, and I just don't know overall. They got Smith one of the best defensive players. Smith went to the Vikings, so it's going to be interesting to see how that switches over in terms of him going from Green Bay to Minnesota. That's going to a lot of times they don't switch into the division. That's going to be something. He was the best player defensively, probably for the Packers last year. So I think a lot of holes here for the Packers, and I'm going to go under. Sure.
All right, and you like over Bills at 11.5. Still a big number, but a team on a different area, a different ascension, so to speak.
Still big number, and yeah, I guess definitely. The AFC East has gotten better. Jets are supposed to win maybe 6-7. A lot of people are saying. Dolphins, big move, like I said earlier, grabbing Tyreek Hill. But this Bills team is just loaded. Josh Allen, last 2 seasons for him, 88 total touchdowns, including his rushing touchdowns. He's just a machine. And again, defensively last year, guys, they gave up the least amount of points in the league, second best in the league in yards against. I think this Bills team is loaded. They have the Dolphins number, and maybe now they have the Patriots number after rolling them in the playoffs. I think the Bills very easily here could get 13, maybe even 14.
Jason, is there anybody you love on the over-unders yet?
Yes. The Atlanta. This is my lock of the year so far. Yeah. It's Atlanta Falcons over-under wins 5. I'm going under.
Under 5.
Under 5 wins. We're talking Matt Ryan is in Indianapolis, right? Marcus Mariota and Desmond Ridder, you're going to trust – they're tanking the season. No Calvin Ridley for what? For a year, right? I mean, they're obviously tanking.
So some books have it at 4.5. Do you feel okay with that?
I'd still be okay at 4.5.
Okay. Wow.
Depending on the number, I guess.
I kind of like that one, too, because you're right. Quarterback situation's iffy, and they haven't – how long has it been? How long has it been since the Falcons had a legit running game? It's been forever.
T.J. Duckett.
Oh, man.
Jamal, what's his name?
Jamal
Anderson.
Yeah. What's his name? Anderson, one of the easiest names to remember. Unbelievable.
Yeah, that was back in the day of the Dirty Bird dance, right?
That was back when what's his name went to the strip club or a happy spa the night before, Hawaii spa or whatever it is, the night before the Super Bowl and got, Eugene Robinson? Was that it?
Eugene Robinson, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You pull that one out of your hat, though.
Yeah,
when it comes to Hawaii spas.
My 90s memory is great. Like what happened? Devontae Dobbs, who played for Michigan State like 3 years ago, can't remember it. Can't do it for the life of me.
Well, you just did.
Oh, there you go. Harry, you're a beautiful man. We look forward to talking to you next week.
Thanks, Harry. You're the best. Take care, guys. Awesome. Take care, guys.
That is the great Harry Gagnon from Against All Odds, podcast with Cousin Sal, bestbetcorner.com and extrapoints.com. I love Harry. He's just out there to, Harry's got an interesting life, man. He just knows people.
It seems like it's the best life. Just laying on couches, giving out your picks, flying to great places. Like, oh, yeah, I was in Palm Beach yesterday. I'm driving down to Malibu. It's like,
speaking of great places, Cask & Company in Front 43, you know how we feel about this place. Their original sponsor. Just a fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Good show.
Couch in the room.